ADEC's Smart Start program offers first-time practice owners their deepest discounts on equipment and furniture for 2 years, plus other savings and complimentary services. Ask your ADEC rep for details and start smart with ADEC. Join Doctors Savanah Craig and Ronnetta Sartor as we navigate life beyond graduation. Real conversations about forging our own paths in our early years in our careers. There's a reason it's called practicing dentistry. Welcome back to another episode of Beyond Graduation. I am Savanah Craig, and with me as always,
I'm Ronnetta Sartor. Good to see you guys back.
So the way we record these episodes is we just pick Saturday and we just keep going. So that's why we always look like we're in the same outfits. But sometimes we'll record. What?
I was going to say, what do you mean? This is my podcasting outfit.
Oh, you just put it on every time.
This is my lucky one. I just got a few of them and I just alternate them, you know?
Your closet is scrubs and then this outfit only.
Yes.
In multiples.
For podcasting.
But sometimes we have topics queued up that we want to talk about. And then sometimes as we start talking, we just keep rolling into things and we figure if we're interested in it, maybe everybody else is too. But so we're doing sort of a deep dive on why we're so hard on ourselves as dentists and how we face complications and why I was talking to one of my mentors about a treatment plan or some treatment that I did that did not work out the way that we wanted it to. And she said to me when patients ask her, because they always do, how long will this last? And she said, forever in a vacuum. But
oh, I like that.
Your mouth, your body is not that environment. So I thought that was a good way to think about sort of what we've been talking about behind the scenes. So I thought your take was pretty interesting on why we're so afraid of, or I feel ill-equipped to handle some complications and how to talk about that with my patients. And I thought your perspective on sort of the dental education system was really insightful.
Yeah, so if I'm thinking about our conversation correctly, I kind of went back to when we're in dental school and how we're taught, right? So before we even touch a patient, we're taught how to do dentistry on a typodont, right? Mm-hmm. And then when we go and start doing things on patients, pretty much it's more so converting what we learned on a typodont to an actual human. But I think
the typodont, the ideal patient.
Right, the ideal patient. We take classes like systemic pathology and oral pathology and that sort of thing. But I wish that there was one course that kind of put it all together, right? So, for example, like you said, our typodont is kind of the vacuum, right? Like the typodont's not chewing every day. The typodont's not drinking sodas every day. The typodont has a perfect health history.
No tongue.
Yeah, no tongue. No
cheeks, kind of, but ours were really stretchy.
Right. So, that typodont is an ideal, perfect scenario and situation, right?
Yep.
When we do dentistry, it's not in an ideal situation. If we're doing dentistry, it's likely because something failed, something went wrong, right. And we are there to now remedy the situation. And so, your mentor is very right. In a vacuum, yes, it could last forever. But if our crown and bridge work and, composite restorations are continuously bathed and just sitting in a pool of acid all day long, that's not going to last forever. What are your thoughts on that? And I guess more so like just your struggles with communicating those potential complications to patients.
Yeah, I think it goes back to, part of the reason I really liked dentistry and was attracted to this field, which is very funny now, was it felt like A plus B equals C. Tooth cavity filling. And I was like, I got it. I got hand skills. I can drill out that decay. I can put a new thing in and good deal. because of the typodont mentality. Like, I got the technical skills. I can see that on a radiograph. I'm your girl. But then you start realizing how much else there is. And every day there are new medications and new problems that patients have that affect the work that I do. And no matter how perfect my crown prep is, no matter how much I talk to my patient about diet and this and that, the medications that they're on that are keeping them alive are working against me. The habits that they have that they don't necessarily even realize are bad habits work against me. Heck, hate to admit this one, but I'm a nail biter. I've been a nail biter my whole life. My mom is a nail biter. My grandma is a nail biter. I come from a long line of nail biters, and I know how bad that is for my teeth. And I know that one day I am one hangnail away from chipping one of my incisors. But I can't stop it. And it's a stress habit, you know? And so there are people out here doing things like that who may or may not know better. And so I just think we're very hard on ourselves as dentists because in school we are taught A plus B equals C. And that's not the actual environment we're working in or the reality we're working in. And even the best materials we have, you know, amalgams were the standard of care forever and ever. And then we find out that they're not perfect restorations. You know, like we are doing the best in a terrible environment that's already broken with the best materials we have that are not as good as what was already there, you know?
Yeah, that's very true.
And how do you get to the bottom of some of these habits or medications, or stay on top of learning what things are causing xerostomia? Or I think the big one that I've started talking to people about is like liquid IV and those sorts of like hydration drinks that a lot of people think is healthy. So I just think the world around us is making it very hard to do dentistry.
Yeah, I mean, it's even like not if we take teeth out of it, right?
Yeah.
Just about everything has sugar in it. And so, like you say, even the liquid IVs have sugar in it.
I mean, there are like sugar-free ones, but it's still acidic or impacting your saliva pH anyway.
Exactly. And so I think it depends. So if it's my first time seeing a patient, you know, we look at everything. You could look in the mouth and see signs of different stuff.
Sure.
A lot of it is paperwork that I have patients fill out. And so we have a form that they fill out once they're in the chair that's called the Healthy Mouth Baseline. And it pretty much has a list of habits or pain or just anything they may be experiencing, and they check it off. And so we talk about that plus medical history plus what's seen radiographically and intraorally. And based on that, I start asking questions. I almost always ask about diet and what they drink. And then we just have a real conversation on how medications or habits are contributing to certain things. And if we want the teeth to sustain for as long as we can, here are the things that I need to do as a dentist to help you. But also, you have homework too every day to help me help you, you know, attain your goal of keeping your teeth for as long as you can.
I like that. I think there are also just so many people unaware of what they're eating, what medications they're on. I think we talk a lot about xerostomia and polypharmacy. And I had a patient the other day who was like, I don't understand. I've never had cavities ever in my life, and now teeth are breaking and all these things. And we got to, recently diagnosed with diabetes. And now we're on these medications and this changes and stinks because you've got to keep your body healthy, but it's going to impact what we're doing here.
Same thing for sleep apnea and acid reflux.
Yep.
And antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications. It's just so much. Almost all of those things that we mentioned causes xerostomia. But in addition to that, the SSRIs and apnea pretty much can cause clenching and grinding. And so whatever we put in there, may not hold up as long as we need to, but it just means that, okay, now that we know that these things are going on, it changes our treatment plan or how we might go about it. If we're doing a risk assessment and you score in the high risk category for sleep apnea, one, it's important for you from a systemic standpoint because we want you to be here. We want you to be alive. But from an oral standpoint, there's no way that I'm doing full mouth restoration on you until you have your sleep apnea addressed. There's no way we're going to, you explain it to them. Whatever I put in here, you're going to spit it back out at me until we have that addressed. So I think a lot of it is just, I think when we're in school, we run to the mouth to be ready to be technical and do things, but it's more so taking a step back and seeing our patient and getting to know them, what's important to them, but also getting to know their history. Like, in school they say never treat a stranger.
Yeah. Part of this, though, too, is just knowing how these things impact the dentistry. And I don't know about you, but we were taught to look at the medical history, to look at all these things. And at least for me, those were focused on safety of local anesthetics and that sort of systemic thing. But I don't think dental school doesn't have the time to teach you everything, first of all. Second, for me, our occlusion lecture was like spring of our first year, when I didn't know anything about anything. And so none of that made sense to me and how it was all connected. And so same thing with like pathology and medical history. If you don't know how these things, learning that SSRIs cause clenching and grinding and also impact bone, and we were talking about a little bit about implant failure and things like that. If you don't know that these things can impact your dentistry and in what specific ways, you can't communicate that to your patients. And it's hard. There are new medications that come out all the time. So how do you keep up with this?
You just try your best to, take as much continuing education as you can. Because honestly, a lot of it is, I go to continuing education courses. I have friends and mentors like you and some friends that are specialists. You and I both read a lot. Yeah. So all you can do is do the best that you can and function with the knowledge that you have today. Like I tell patients all the time, if something dentistry wise that they have failed and they want to know why, and it's something that was like an older material or something like that, we say, at the time, this is what we knew. Yeah. This was the best material. But we have now found XYZ, and this is how I propose we move forward. I think that's any profession. You're just doing the best that you can with the research that you have at that time.
I think that I have this conversation with my grandparents all the time. Like, your doctors are just people working on what they were taught. And that can be scary to think about.
Yeah, it could be.
But we're doing our best. And when you know better, you do better. But also, we don't know everything and we're never going to. How do you've talked about how you've transitioned to the dentistry failed, the dentist doing the treatment didn't fail. That conversation, I think, in this talk about we're putting our work in a inhospitable environment. It's not in a vacuum. How do you let patients know?
Hold on, did you say hospitable or did you mean hostile?
Hostile. Hostile environment. Okay. Sorry. Good catch.
Yeah. I was about to say, because it could be hospitable.
And usually not.
Depending on what kind of mouth it is, but I just know.
The majority.
Yeah, my style.
Yeah, it's pretty hostile. Thank you. It's not an ideal place to be. How do you communicate that, especially as people age and their medical history changes, and how do you bring that all together?
I think a lot of it is patients just want to know that you're concerned, right? So,
Yeah.
for example, I think I was telling you about a couple of patients I had this week where, they came in for their hygiene appointment. We had some things that we were monitoring or things that we had saw or treatment plan, and they just hadn't gotten around to having it done just yet. And, with our intraoral photos and stuff, we showed them, hey, these areas have worsened. And we have to talk about, the medications and everything. We're fighting an uphill battle. We're doing as much as we can with what we have to try to keep them around for as long as we can. And in some situations, you have to let them know what the reality of the situation is. The reality is you may end up losing all of your teeth.
Yeah.
Because of it. Okay. Now that we've had this discussion, what are next steps? They can go home and think about what that would mean to them and how they may want to move forward with it. And then, we are here to help them get to, whatever goal would be achievable for them based on what their situation is, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I do think with the idea of polypharmacy and complex medical history, all of this is also always in flux. And at the time when you did that work, that may have been the best thing, or it was working then, but now they're diabetic. Or, even you think of like a lot of crown and bridge work, and people go through life things where maybe there's been like family loss or depression and they weren't caring for things, and now we've got recurrent caries. And I think, like we said, it's not a vacuum, and knowing that there are just so many factors, there are more factors working against me than like me.
I think the important thing, like you said, like it's so many things going on, is making your patient aware of that, expressing concern for not only what's going on with them systemically, but what's going on in the oral cavity, but just making them aware so that they can have a conversation with their primary care doctors. And
Yeah.
then together we can decide what the best course of action is to be able to help them.
Yeah. And a lot of talk of prevention. And sometimes it's just, we'll maintain this as long as we can. And it is what it is. But I don't think we're taught enough about the potential complications or how to deal with them when they arise in dental school, because we're not seeing things very long term either.
I think that's been the beauty of I was in my associateship for 4 years. So I got to see some things work well, and I got to see some things not work very well. But it gets you to start asking the questions,
Yeah.
It's asking yourself the question, but also asking the patient questions, because they live in their body. Their mouth is attached to them, every day. So we don't, I can only know what I see when you come in for your appointments.
Yeah. I tell patients a lot, I'm not coming home with you, so I can do my part here, but you gotta hold up your end of the bargain to the best of your ability. But I don't know why dentists, we want to be the heroes and like solve all the problems, and sometimes you just can't slap a composite in there and fix it, Does that make sense?
And I think that shows growth, right?
Yeah.
In your journey in dentistry, of when you know that you can't fix everything, and just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should.
Yeah. That's heavy though. I think we want to be problem solvers. Again, I went into this because I thought cavity filling, I did it. And man, is it more complicated than that.
Oh yeah, it's a whole web, but everything's connected and everything. And so it's a fun time to be alive for sure. And be in a profession. There's so much to learn. It never gets boring.
For good or for bad.
Yeah, better or worse, right?
Yep.
So we'd love to hear your take on our topic here. I'm sure You all have lots of experiences and lots of things to share. So reach out to us. You can find me on Instagram at Dr. _Sartor, and you can find Savanah
at Savanah Craig DDS. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Beyond Graduation. If you enjoyed this week's episode, be sure to share it with a friend. Connect with us on social media at Savanah Craig DDS and at Dr. _Sartor. And remember, you are not alone on this journey.
ADEC certified pre-owned equipment is a sustainable, affordable choice that makes genuine ADEC equipment available to every doctor. Each package is sold on a first-come, first-served basis. So, if you see one you like, contact your dealer. For more information, go to www.adec.com/find a dealer. Thank you for listening to Beyond Graduation, brought to you by Ignite DDS and Future Dentists. This episode was sponsored by Ignite DDS Coaching. We build self-determined futures. For more information, please reach out to the Ignite DDS team.